Hello, everybody. This is Katie Joe, and this podcast is Sovereign Soul, learning to be your own sovereign authority of your life, your spirituality, your health, and your finances. Now, I saw this amazing video today on a lady who said a man is not a plan. And she took the traditional route, which is also the route that I took when I was young, which is the word that's being used in the term is trad wife or traditional wife, traditional role structures. And that role structure, meaning that you have a man that is the breadwinner and the woman takes care of all of the household duties and takes care of the children, is a system that works and is completely dependent upon whether or not a male is mentally and emotionally and financially healthy. And the person that's at the greatest risk in that situation is always going to be the woman. And what happens is, and what happened to me is, as I was trying to be the trad wife, or I call the sidekick to the superhero in my first marriage, we're taught a lot of times in society, especially a conservative religious society, which I was, that we're here to support the male, the man, and we're going to do that free accounting. We're going to be doing the administrative services. We're going to make sure that everything that they need to have done for their business to be successful is this unpaid labor. We're going to make sure that they don't have to worry about anything at home. They could just have all the fun experience with the kids. Once in a while, we're going to call them in to be the discipline. We're going to make sure that dinner's handled, breakfast is handled, food is handled, all the management of the household duties, all the emotional and other logistics for the children that are co-created are handled. And everything is put into this egg basket of eggs, and that basket of, and you hear the term, no, don't put all your eggs in one basket, of whether or not the man is emotionally, mentally, and financially successful. And if he's not, if he's abusive, if he's not a go-getter, if he's not ambitious, if he's prone to addiction, whatever it is, all those eggs in the basket spill out. And what I found out in that circumstance, and I'm not saying any of this about my first husband, I'm simply saying in that system, is that when I was in a position that now I needed to be the head of my household, meaning take care of the three children at the time that needed food, that needed shelter, that needed school fees, needed shoes, needed clothing, all of that. I was applying for jobs. I was looking for jobs. And while I knew all of the Excel because I was paying bills, and that I knew money management, time management, all these things that I knew and I was qualified at. None of that translated into a paper trail known as resume. And so I couldn't find a career. I couldn't find a position for a long time. So, in that dynamic, that male partner still has his career, still has his finances, still gets to see his kids on the weekend or more. And the kids are often provided for, but not the woman. And so there's this term that I learned. In fact, when that happened, I went to college. I went back to college trying to figure things out. What am I going to do? And I took a sociology class, and the sociology class said this is the feminization of poverty. There's this idea that the majority of people on poverty or on welfare are immigrants. There's this idea that it's drug addicts, but the truth is that people that are on those systems are usually single moms who were married or not married, but had trusted their partner to provide for them. And because they didn't provide a future for themselves, they didn't get their own credit, get their own cards, get their own bank accounts. They are now in a position that they can't stand on their own 2 feet in the world. Now, I remember when I finally did get a job, I hired this woman, and she was she was working because she didn't have kids yet. She'd been married for a while, like 2 years, and she'd gotten bored being at home, being the housekeeper and the food maker. And so she came to work for fun. And I remember as I was doing her HR, her human resources, logging her in, I said to her, "What's your social security number?" She didn't know it. And I said, "What's your bank account number?" And she said, Oh, I don't know that. And I looked at her and I said, you don't know your bank account number? And she said, I don't need to know it. I'm married. And it was just the ignorance of that and the vulnerability and the risk that she was taking with her life and complete oblivious, or what is the right word? Complete ignorance into that she had put herself in one of the most precarious systems or situations that she could. Meaning, if you don't know your bank account number, you don't know your social security number, if your spouse is hiding money from you, if he's spending money, you have no idea. Everything's built on another person. And I just can't concede to the idea that any human, any human success in the world is relative on another, that we have to depend on another, because that's not partnership. Because partnership doesn't mean that one is depending on the other. And one of the things, maybe I'm just rambling now, but I see women who become successful entrepreneurs and they end up becoming the breadwinners of their family, and the roles reverse. And I'll see them on these stages and I'll see them taking these awards and these achievements, and they're making all this money. And what they say over and over and over again is they take this award and they say, I want to thank my husband. I couldn't do any of this without him sacrificing his career, without him being there for the kids, without him holding down the home front, so that I could just solely focus on this and achieve these results. And I see women entrepreneurs and women business leaders always get up there and do that. And I rarely see those male counterparts who are winning all those awards do that. There's this lack of understanding that the reason they're able to focus on all of those things is because they aren't handling all of these logistics that are life logistics. If you have a home, if you have created children, it is not somebody else's responsibility, it is yours. And this idea that just being the man or being the provider is enough is being thrown out the window. Now, maybe back in caveman times that was relative, but it's not now, because the danger it's the danger to the feminine and it's the danger to the woman. And what happens with this, and I see this all of the time, is you'll have a masculine counterpart who goes out and he provides, and then he comes and he thinks my job is done, and he doesn't value the feminine. He doesn't value the woman. He doesn't see what she's doing as a sacrifice. He doesn't see what she's offering as something of value, because it doesn't have a dollar amount attached to it. And we're living in a world that if that relationship parts, and the status I think is like 60%, and here I am in Utah, and people think, well, if you pray and if you're the same religion, everything's going to be better. But I heard through one study that Utah's divorce rates are actually higher than the national average. And so we have to be aware that we are putting ourselves in a position where we, as women, if we think a man's a plan, will be in poverty. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want women to come or hear this and think to themselves, I am at the end of my rope. I am at the end of my rope with toddlers. I am at the end of the rope with house cleaning. I can't put one more thing on my plate. And now I'm listening to this podcast and I'm feeling like I'm in complete danger and I have to do more things and add more things to my plate. That's not my intention behind this. What I am inviting you to do is to find a way to find more balance in the relationship and in the balance of your life. If that means that you get to create because it's not about money. This is what I want you to understand. This isn't about money. This is about identity and safety and security for the future. So, what I would encourage you to do is, whether you need the money or not, to find a passion of yours that you can monetize. And if you can find a 1 day a week career or job or something, even if it's from home, that you're creating some revenue, that you can have your own credit, that you can have your own income coming in, even if it's nothing. Don't look at it as the dollar amount. I don't need to work, so why should I? It's that you're building a foundation for your future where you have a paper trail behind you that says, this person has their own account, this person has their own credit, this person in the world is stable. So, and it's not, well, I've had so many women say, well, I'm never going to get divorced. Well, it might not be divorce. It could be death. It could be disabled. It could be a fire. It could be a tornado. It could be all of these things that happen in the world all of the time. And so, if anything, it's financial, but also it's learning who you are outside of the role of wife and mother. And if you were to do that, then the balance in the partnership would be, hey, you get to go for so many hours a day and you get to create income and follow your dreams and live your passions and create a career and a reputation. And I get to do that too. And so I get to have so many hours this week where I'm not focused on the kids. I don't come home to a big mess. The chores are not my responsibility. I get to have this window for myself as well, even if you don't need the money, where I am building my passion, a career. This is who I am. This is an identity. And this is me outside of the role of just wife and mother, because wife and mother is a lot. And anyone who's been the mother of toddlers or young kids knows that that is probably 10 times harder than doing a 9 to 5 job. And I've done both. And I can tell you, being the mother to a toddler is 10 times harder than going out, stepping outside of the door and just bringing in a check. I don't care what the job is. I've done it both ways. And there's nothing like being the single mom with kids, being the head of the household, and all of that. So that's all I have for that today.